Taehyun stepped off the transport ship and felt the artificial gravity of Centauri Prime pull at his boots. The massive space station hung in orbit around the bright star like a jewel made of metal and glass. This was the heart of galactic knowledge, where every star chart and trade route in known space was stored and studied. He had traveled 3 months to get here, and his mission was simple. His people, the Altarian Coalition, needed new trade routes as their population grew beyond their home systems. Bora walked beside him, her tablet already showing the meeting schedule. She was young but smart, with eyes that missed nothing and a memory that stored every detail. She had been his aide for 2 years, and he trusted her completely. The Veth High archivists are waiting in the main cartography hall, she said, checking her notes. They have prepared the complete stellar maps for our review. The corridors of the station were wide and clean, filled with beings from dozens of different worlds. Tall, blue-skinned Zephyrians walked past them, their extra arms carrying various devices. Small, furry creatures from the outer rim chittered to each other in their musical language. The air recycling systems worked perfectly, creating a comfortable environment for all the different species that called this place home. They reached the cartography hall, and Taehyun stopped for a moment to stare. The room was enormous, with a ceiling that reached up beyond sight. Holographic displays showed star systems in 3 dimensions, rotating slowly in the air. Each dot of light represented a sun, and the colored lines between them showed the established trade routes that connected the galaxy. It was beautiful and overwhelming at the same time. Ambassador Taehyun, a harmonic voice called out. The sound was like crystal bells ringing in perfect tune. A Veth High archivist approached them, its body made of living crystal that caught and reflected the light from the displays. These beings were known throughout the galaxy for their perfect memory and their dedication to preserving knowledge. I am Keeper Velthar. We are honored to assist your people in their expansion. Taehyun bowed slightly, following the proper diplomatic protocol. The honor is ours, Keeper. The Coalition needs to establish new trade routes to support our growing colonies. We hope your archives can provide the information we need. Velthar led them to a smaller room where a massive 3-dimensional map filled the space from floor to ceiling. Every star, every planet, every asteroid field was marked and labeled. Trade routes appeared as glowing threads connecting system after system. Resource markers showed where valuable materials could be found. Hazard warnings marked dangerous areas where ships should not travel. This represents 400,000 light-years of charted space, Velthar said, its crystalline form pulsing with pride. Every major civilization contributes to this database. Your people will find many suitable routes for expansion. Bora immediately began taking notes, her fingers flying over her tablet as she recorded the display. But Taehyun found his attention drawn to something odd. In one section of the map, there was a sphere-shaped area that seemed different from the rest. It was not marked as unexplored territory. It was not labeled as a hazard zone. It simply existed as a blank space, as if someone had carefully erased everything within its boundaries. What is that region there? Taehyun asked, pointing to the empty sphere. It was roughly 2,000 light-years across, a significant chunk of space to simply ignore. Velthar's harmonic voice wavered, the crystal structure of its body dimming slightly. That is human space. We do not map beyond their borders. Bora looked up from her tablet, her eyebrows raised in surprise. She quickly pulled up her historical database, searching for information about humans. According to our records, humans only achieved faster-than-light travel 150 years ago. How can such a young species control so much space? The archivist's glow dimmed further, and for the first time since they had arrived, Velthar seemed uncomfortable. Age is not always the measure of significance, young one. Taehyun studied the empty region more carefully. It was positioned in what should be prime galactic real estate, close to several major trade routes and resource-rich systems. Any expanding civilization would want to claim territory in that area, yet it remained completely blank on the most detailed star chart. In the galaxy, surely there must be something beyond their borders, Taehyun pressed. Other star systems, other civilizations. Empty space does not simply end at political boundaries. Velthar's crystalline form began to resonate with what sounded almost like fear. The harmonic tones that made up its voice became discordant, creating an uncomfortable sound that made both visitors wince. "We do not ask such questions, Ambassador. It is not wise to wonder about what lies beyond human space." Bora exchanged a glance with Tae-hyun, both of them recognizing something important in the archivist's reaction. This was not simply a matter of incomplete data or territorial respect. There was something else happening here, something that made one of the most knowledgeable beings in the galaxy afraid to even discuss the topic. "Have other civilizations tried to explore that region?" Tae-hyun asked carefully. The question seemed to cause Velthar actual pain. The crystal being's body flickered, its light becoming unstable. "Some have shown curiosity. Their expeditions do not return with reports." "They are destroyed?" "No. They simply do not return. We receive no distress signals, no wreckage is found, no evidence of conflict. They cross the boundary and then silence." Bora saved her notes and closed her tablet. She had learned enough about diplomacy to recognize when a conversation was heading into dangerous territory. But her scientific mind was already working on the problem. A species that could achieve faster than light travel would leave traces, evidence of their technology and expansion. The fact that humans seemed to exist in complete isolation was unusual enough to be noteworthy. "Perhaps we should focus on the available trade routes," she suggested diplomatically. Velthar's relief was visible as its crystalline form brightened again. "Yes, there are many excellent opportunities in the outer spiral arms. Your people will find abundant resources and established trading partners." They spent the next several hours reviewing standard star charts, trade agreements, and shipping manifests. But throughout the meeting, Tae-hyun's attention kept drifting back to that empty sphere on the map. 2,000 light-years of space that simply did not exist in the galactic consciousness. A boundary that no one questioned and no one crossed. When their meeting concluded, Velthar escorted them back to the main corridor. "The Coalition's expansion plans are sound," the archivist said. "You will find success in the routes we have discussed." After the Vethai had departed, Tae-hyun and Bora walked slowly toward their transport. The space station continued its busy routine around them, but both of them were lost in thought. "Something is wrong about this whole situation," Bora said quietly. "A species does not simply claim territory and have the entire galaxy accept it without question, especially not a species as young as humanity." Tae-hyun nodded, his diplomatic training warring with his natural curiosity. "And yet, every civilization in the galaxy seems to respect their boundaries. Even the Kron hegemony, who have never shown respect for anyone's territorial claims." "What if we were to organize a small expedition?" Bora suggested. "Nothing official, just a scientific survey to understand what makes human space so special." The idea was dangerous and potentially illegal. Crossing into another species' territory without permission was an act of war by most galactic standards. But the mystery was too compelling to ignore. A young species that commanded such universal respect, a region of space that simply ended at arbitrary boundaries, a collection of the galaxy's most knowledgeable beings who were afraid to even discuss the topic. "Find out who else might be interested in answers," Tae-hyun said finally. "But be discreet about it. If we are going to do this, we need to be very careful about how we proceed." As their transport departed Centauri Prime, both of them stared out at the star-filled space around them. Somewhere out there, beyond the mapped regions of the galaxy, lay a mystery that could change everything they thought they knew about the universe. 3 months had passed since their visit to Centauri Prime, and Tae-hyun had quietly assembled a small team of volunteers. The exploration vessel Morning Star was not impressive by galactic standards, but it was fast and well-equipped for long-range surveys. More importantly, it belonged to Captain Han Wool, who had a reputation for asking few questions when the pay was good and the mission was interesting. Han Wool stood on the bridge, his weathered hands moving over the control panels with practiced ease. He had been flying ships between the stars for 30 years, carrying cargo and passengers to every corner of mapped space. His hair was gray now, but his eyes were still sharp, and his reflexes still quick. "Coordinates locked in," he announced. "We are 3 hours from the boundary of human space." Sojin sat at the science station, her instruments scanning everything within range. She was a xenobiology specialist who had studied dozens of different species, but humans remained a mystery to her. Their rapid rise from a single world to galactic recognition defied everything she knew about species development. "I am detecting normal space traffic," she reported. "Trade ships, survey vessels, mining operations. Nothing unusual yet." Jamin worked at the engineering console, monitoring their ship's various systems. He was the youngest member of their team, but his understanding of stellar engineering was remarkable. Every piece of technology on the Morning Star had been checked and rechecked under his supervision. "All systems running at optimal efficiency," he said. "The quantum processors are stable. Bio-neural networks are responding normally." Taehyun stood near the main view screen watching the stars ahead of them. Bora sat at the communication station, recording everything for their eventual report, if they survived to make one. The team had agreed that this mission was dangerous, but the mystery was too important to ignore. "What exactly are we expecting to find?" Han-Wol asked. "The galactic archives show nothing beyond the human boundary. That is what makes this interesting," Sojin replied. "Space does not simply end at political borders. There should be star systems, planets, maybe other civilizations that exist independently of human control." The ship's navigation computer chimed softly, indicating they were approaching their destination. On the view screen, space looked exactly the same as it had for the past several days. Stars scattered across the darkness, some bright and some dim, forming patterns that had guided travelers for thousands of years. "Crossing the boundary in 60 seconds, Han-Wol announced. Jamin watched his instruments carefully, looking for any changes in their ship's performance. All systems still normal. Whatever is supposed to happen, it has not started yet. 30 seconds. Bora activated the ship's recording systems, making sure they would have evidence of whatever they were about to experience. The diplomatic protocols were clear about documenting first contact situations, even unofficial ones. 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We are now in human space. For a moment, nothing seemed different. The stars looked the same. The ship continued on its course, and all the instruments showed normal readings. Then Jamin noticed something wrong with his display panels. "The quantum processors are slowing down," he said, his voice tight with concern. "Processing speed has dropped by 20% and it is still falling." Sojin's bio-neural networks began flickering, the organic components that helped run their most advanced systems starting to fail. "I am losing connection to the mycelial collective interfaces. The living circuits are going dormant." One by one, their most sophisticated technologies began to malfunction. The artificial intelligence that helped with navigation became confused and contradictory. The gravity generators started fluctuating, making everyone feel slightly dizzy. The environmental systems that maintained perfect atmospheric conditions began to struggle. "What is happening to our ship?" Han-Wol demanded, fighting to maintain control as system after system reported problems. Jamin was frantically running diagnostics, trying to understand why their technology was failing. "It is not mechanical damage. The equipment is physically intact, but it is acting like it has forgotten how to function properly." "Switch to backup systems," Taehyun ordered. The backup systems were older and simpler, based on designs that humans had used before they achieved faster than light travel. Chemical rockets, basic fusion reactors, simple metal hulls with mechanical controls. Technology that other species considered primitive, but which had proven reliable over centuries of use. Remarkably, the backup systems worked perfectly. The ship's basic propulsion continued without problems. Life support maintained stable conditions, and their simple radio communications operated normally. Only their most advanced technology, the systems that made them competitive with other galactic civilizations, had stopped working properly. "It is like the universe itself is rejecting our advanced technology," Sojin said, staring at her failed instruments in amazement. "That is not scientifically possible," Jamin protested. "The laws of physics do not change based on location. Their argument was interrupted when Bora detected something on the long-range sensors. I am picking up a large object, roughly 12,000 kilometers ahead. It appears to be artificial. Hanwol adjusted their course to investigate, relying on his manual piloting skills since the automated systems were unreliable. As they approached, the object resolved into something that made everyone on the bridge fall silent. It was a graveyard of ships, thousands of vessels from dozens of different civilizations floating dead in space. Zephyrian exploration craft with their distinctive blue hulls sat next to Kron hegemony warships, their armor plating dark and cold. Veth-High research vessels, their crystalline surfaces no longer glowing, drifted alongside ships from species that Tai Hyun did not even recognize. How many ships are out there? Hanwol asked quietly. Sojin tried to count them, but the numbers were overwhelming. Thousands, maybe tens of thousands. This represents vessels from every major civilization in the galaxy. At the center of the graveyard, like a monument to something beyond understanding, sat a single small craft. Its hull was simple metal, its design functional rather than elegant. Human writing was visible on its side, letters that spelled out words in their strange angular language. "Can you read it?" Taehyun asked. Bora had studied human linguistics as part of her diplomatic training. "Terra Survey Ship Curiosity," she translated. Terra is what humans call their home world. The little survey ship looked ancient compared to the sophisticated vessels surrounding it, but it was the only craft in the entire graveyard that showed any signs of activity. Faint lights glowed in its windows, and its communication array was still extended as if waiting for messages from home. Jae-min studied his sensor readings, trying to understand what had happened to so many ships. There are no signs of weapons damage, no hull breaches from combat, no radiation signatures from energy weapons. These ships were not destroyed in battle. Then what happened to them? I do not know. They appear to be intact but powerless, as if something simply turned off all their systems and left them drifting. Hanwol carefully maneuvered the Morningstar through the graveyard, avoiding the larger vessels and trying not to disturb whatever had become their final resting place. The silence was overwhelming, broken only by the soft hum of their basic life support systems. "Wait," Sojin said suddenly. "I am detecting heat signatures. Some of these ships still have active life support." The revelation was shocking. If the ships still had power for life support, then their crews might still be alive after who knew how many years floating in space. The graveyard was not a graveyard at all, but a prison where thousands of beings from across the galaxy had been trapped. "Should we attempt to make contact?" Bora asked. Before anyone could answer, their communication system crackled to life. A voice speaking accented Galactic Standard filled the bridge, the words tinged with resignation and something that might have been relief. "Unknown vessel, this is Kyung-ho of the Altarian Science Corps. Welcome to the Watchers. We have been expecting you." Taehyun felt his blood turn cold. Kyung-ho was a name he recognized, a famous explorer who had disappeared 7 years ago on a mission to chart unknown regions of space. The Altarian government had assumed his ship had been lost to pirates or natural disaster. "Kyung-ho, this is Ambassador Taehyun. Are you injured? Do you require assistance?" Laughter came through the speaker, but it was not the sound of someone who found anything amusing. "Injured? No, Ambassador. We are very much alive. All of us. We have simply learned that some questions should not be asked and some boundaries should not be crossed." "What do you mean? What happened to your ships?" "We came to study them just as you did. The humans appeared from nowhere, claimed this region of space, and every civilization in the galaxy accepted it without question. We had to know why." The communication channel remained open, but Kyung-ho seemed to be gathering his thoughts before continuing. When he spoke again, his voice carried the weight of years spent contemplating impossible truths. "The humans do not fight us. They do not threaten us or demand our surrender. They simply exist, and somehow that is enough to make the universe itself bend around them." The Morningstar drifted silently through the graveyard of ships, its crew trying to process what Kyung-ho had told them. Hanwol kept the engines at minimum power, afraid that any sudden movement might trigger whatever force had trapped thousands of vessels in this place. The backup systems continued to work normally, but every piece of advanced technology remained unreliable. "Kyung-ho, how many ships are trapped here?" Tae-hyun asked through the communication system. The response came, after a long pause. "We stopped counting after the first 1,000. Ships arrive regularly, maybe 1 or 2 each month. They all come for the same reason you did: curiosity about what makes human space so different." So-jin was scanning the nearby vessels with her basic sensors, trying to understand how so many crews could survive in dead ships. "I am detecting life signs throughout the graveyard. Thousands of beings from dozens of different species. How are they staying alive without working ships?" "The humans provide for us," Kyung-ho replied. "Food, water, air, power for basic life. Support. Not because we ask them to, but because they seem to understand that we need these things to survive." Jamin looked up from his engineering station, confusion clear on his face. That makes no sense from a strategic perspective. Why would they keep potential enemies alive? Why not simply destroy the ships that enter their territory? "Because they are not like other species," came a different voice over the communication channel. This one belonged to a female, speaking with the precise accent of the Veth high crystalline beings. "I am researcher Wu Sung, formerly of the Centauran Science Corps. I have been here for 47 years studying what the humans have accomplished." Bo-Ra quickly checked her historical records. Wu Sung had been one of the most respected xenosociologists in the galaxy before her disappearance during a routine survey mission. Her loss had been mourned throughout the academic community. "Dr. Wu Sung, this is incredible. The entire galaxy believes you died decades ago." "In many ways, I did die. The person I was before coming here could not have understood what I have learned. The humans do not simply occupy this region of space. They have fundamentally changed it." Tae-hyun leaned closer to the communication panel. "Changed it how?" "The laws of physics operate differently in human space. Not completely different, but altered in subtle ways that make our technology incompatible with reality itself. Cause and effect follow new rules. The universe responds to different principles." This explanation was too abstract for Jamin to accept. As an engineer, he believed in concrete facts and measurable phenomena. Physical laws do not change based on location. That would violate everything we know about the universe. Everything we know is based on studying the universe outside human space. Wu Sung replied patiently. "What if our knowledge is incomplete? What if there are aspects of reality that we have never encountered, because we have never met a species capable of accessing them?" Han-Wul maneuvered the Morning Star closer to a cluster of ships that appeared to be from the same time period as Kyung-ho's disappearance. The vessels were intact but dark, their hulls showing no signs of damage or decay. Whatever kept them functional also preserved them perfectly. "Dr. Wu Sung, what exactly have you learned during your time here?" The scholar's voice took on the tone of someone sharing a discovery that had taken decades to understand. Humans did not evolve to conquer their environment the way other species did. They evolved to adapt to it, to become one with whatever conditions they found themselves in. When they reached space, they did not try to impose their will on the cosmos. Instead, they learned to exist in harmony with the fundamental forces of reality. So-jin was taking notes as quickly as she could, recording every word of this incredible conversation. "Are you saying that humans can manipulate the basic structure of spacetime?" "Not manipulate. That implies force, which is what every other galactic civilization attempts to use. Humans do not force anything. They simply understand the universe so completely that it responds to their presence by becoming more compatible with their existence." Tae-hyun was beginning to grasp the implications of what they were learning. "This is why our technology fails when we cross their boundaries. Our machines are designed to work against natural forces, to overcome resistance and impose our will on matter and energy." Exactly. Human technology works with natural forces instead of against them. Their ships do not fight gravity. They dance with it. Their computers do not process information. They participate in the flow of data through quantum space. They have achieved something that no other species has even imagined possible. A new voice joined the conversation, speaking in the harsh tones of the Kron hegemony warrior caste. I am Battle Commander Inho. My war fleet came here to test human military capabilities. We expected to find advanced weapons, powerful shields, massive battleships designed for conquest. What did you find instead? Han Wol asked. Nothing. No weapons, no military installations, no signs of aggressive intent. Just small ships with crews who seemed genuinely happy to meet us. When we demanded their surrender, they invited us to stay for dinner. The absurdity of the situation was almost too much to believe. The Kron hegemony was known throughout the galaxy for their military prowess and aggressive expansion. The idea that they had been neutralized by an invitation to dinner seemed impossible. Our weapons would not function properly in their space, Inho continued. Our targeting systems became confused. Our energy weapons discharged harmlessly into space. Our armor plating began to feel uncomfortable against our skin. We were not defeated in battle. We were simply made irrelevant. Bora was struggling to understand how this information had remained secret from the galactic community. Why has no one reported these discoveries? Surely some of you must have tried to send messages back to your home worlds. We tried, Kyung-ho admitted, but our communication systems work no better than any other advanced technology. We can talk to each other using basic radio, but we cannot reach beyond the boundaries of human space. And even if we could, Wusong added, what would we say? That we have discovered a species that makes the rest of galactic civilization look primitive and crude. That everything we thought we knew about progress and development is wrong. The conversation was interrupted by an alert from Jae-min's sensor station. I am detecting a new contact approaching our position. Small vessel, single occupant, definitely of human origin. On the main view screen, a simple spacecraft appeared. Its design was elegant in its simplicity, with clean lines and smooth curves that seemed to flow naturally through space. There were no visible weapons, no threatening protrusions, no signs of military purpose. It looked more like a work of art than a machine of war. Unknown vessel, this is Captain Ji-Hai of the Earth Survey Service, came a cheerful voice over their communication system. Welcome to the edge of our space. We have been monitoring your approach and wanted to make sure you were not in any distress. Tae-hyun exchanged glances with his crew members. After everything they had learned about the trapped ships and the Watchers, they had expected their first contact with humans to be more dramatic. Instead, they were being greeted like lost travelers who might need assistance. Captain Ji-Hai, this is Ambassador Tae-hyun of the Altarian Coalition. We are conducting a scientific survey of this region. Oh, you are here about the border situation, Ji-Hai replied casually. Yes, we have been expecting visitors like you for quite some time. The curiosity is natural, and we understand why other species want to know what makes our space different. Her tone was friendly and completely unsurprised, as if alien expeditions crossing into human territory were a common occurrence rather than a potential act of war. The casual attitude was somehow more unsettling than any threat could have been. Captain, we have discovered thousands of ships from other civilizations in this area. Their crews claim to be unable to leave. Are they prisoners? Jihee's laughter was warm and genuine. Prisoners? Oh no, nothing like that. They are students just like you are about to become. The universe is much larger and more wonderful than most species realize. Once you understand what we have learned, going back to the old ways of doing things becomes very difficult. Are you saying we cannot leave? You can leave anytime you want. Your ship will function normally once you cross back over the boundary. But most visitors choose to stay because they realize there is so much more to learn here. Tae-hyun looked around, the bridge at his crew members. Han Wol was gripping his control console tightly, ready to flee at the first sign of danger. So-jin was recording everything, her scientific mind fascinated despite her fear. Jaemin was still trying to make sense of the impossible technology, failures they had experienced. Bora was taking notes for a report that she was beginning to suspect would never be filed. Captain Ji-Hai, would it be possible to visit Earth itself? We would like to understand what humanity has achieved. Of course. The Committee for Galactic Affairs is always happy to meet with representatives from other civilizations. They can explain everything much better than I can. As the human ship began to escort them deeper into human space, Taehyun realized that they were about to witness something that would change their understanding of existence itself. The journey to Earth took 5 days, and every hour revealed new impossibilities. Captain Ji-Hai's ship moved through space with a grace that defied everything Jaemin knew about physics and engineering. The human vessel seemed to flow around obstacles instead of avoiding them, riding currents in space-time that no other species had ever detected. Their propulsion system makes no sense, Jaemin muttered, studying his sensor readings for the 100th time. I cannot detect any energy. Emissions, no reaction mass being expelled, no gravitational manipulation fields. The ship simply moves as if space itself wants it to be somewhere else. Hanwoo was having his own struggles with navigation. The familiar star patterns that had guided him through decades of space travel looked wrong in human space. Constellations appeared in different positions, stellar distances seemed inconsistent, and his navigation computer gave readings that contradicted what his eyes could see. It is like the universe has been rearranged, he said, frustration clear in his voice. Stars that should be light years apart appear to be neighbors, while systems that look close together are actually separated by vast distances. So-jin was documenting everything, her scientific training helping her maintain some objectivity, despite the impossible things they were witnessing. The phenomena we are observing suggest that humans have developed a completely different relationship with space and time. They are not fighting natural forces, they are collaborating with them. Their escort ship maintained a comfortable distance close enough for communication, but far enough to give them space to process what they were experiencing. Captain Ji-Hai proved to be excellent company, sharing stories about human exploration, and answering their questions with patience and good humor. How long have your people been able to travel like this? Bora asked during one of their conversations. That depends on what you mean by travel, Ji-Hai replied. We have had ships that could move between stars for about 150 years, but we have only understood how to move with the universe instead of against it for the last century. Taehyun was intrigued by the distinction. What changed? What discovery allowed you to develop this technology? It was not a discovery exactly, more like a change in perspective. We stopped trying to conquer space and started trying to understand it. Once we learned to listen to what the universe was telling us, everything became much easier. The answer was frustratingly vague, but Taehyun was beginning to realize that human achievements could not be explained in terms that other civilizations would recognize. They had somehow transcended the normal limitations of physics and engineering, through methods that sounded more philosophical than scientific. On the 4th day of their journey, they encountered other human ships. Each vessel was unique in design, as if built by artists rather than engineers. Some were sleek and streamlined, others had organic curves that looked more grown than constructed. A few appeared to be made of crystalline materials that sparkled, like jewels in the starlight. Your ships are all so different from each other, So-jin observed. Most galactic civilizations develop standard designs for efficiency and mass production. Why would we want all our ships to look the same? Ji-Hai asked, genuinely puzzled by the question. Each ship is built for specific purposes and specific people. The universe is infinitely varied, so our tools should be varied as well. The human crew members they met during brief communications were equally diverse. Some had the appearance that matched galactic databases of human physiology, but others seemed to have been modified in ways that should have been impossible. One captain had skin that changed color like a chameleon, another had eyes that reflected starlight like mirrors, and a third seemed to exist partially in normal space and partially somewhere else entirely. Are these genetic modifications? Jaemin asked privately. Not exactly, Ji-Hai replied, when he worked up the courage to ask her directly. Humans adapt to their environment, remember? Space is our environment now, so we have adapted to make space travel more comfortable and efficient. The changes happen naturally over time. The casual way she discussed fundamental alterations to human biology was both fascinating and unsettling. Other species required centuries of careful genetic engineering to make minor modifications to their physiology. Humans seem to accomplish the same results simply by deciding they wanted to be different. On the 5th day, they reached the solar system, and Taehyun got his first look at humanity's birth world. Earth appeared on their view screen as a blue and green sphere wrapped in white clouds, beautiful and peaceful in the light of its yellow star. The planet looked exactly like the images in galactic databases, showing no signs of the advanced technology that humanity had developed. Your homeworld appears completely natural, Bora observed. Where are your cities, your industrial complexes, your space elevators? They are there, but they work with the natural environment instead of replacing it, Ji-Hai explained. Human cities grow like forests. Our factories operate like living ecosystems, and our transportation systems follow the natural flow of wind and water. The approach to Earth revealed more impossible sights. The space around the planet was filled with structures that looked more like coral reefs than space stations. Ships moved between them like schools of fish, following patterns that seemed random but somehow perfectly coordinated. Everything functioned with an organic harmony that made other civilizations' space infrastructure look crude and mechanical. How do you coordinate all this traffic without central control systems? Han Wol asked. As a pilot, he was amazed by the complexity of the orbital activity around Earth. Why would we need central control? Ji-Hai replied. Each ship knows where it needs to go, and the universe provides the paths between destinations. Trust the flow, and everything works out perfectly. They were directed to a docking facility that grew around the morning star like a living thing, forming airlocks and walkways that perfectly matched their ship's configuration. The process was seamless and gentle, with none of the harsh mechanical clanging that characterized most galactic spaceports. The docking bay was filled with breathable atmosphere that smelled of growing plants and clean water. Human workers moved about their tasks with quiet efficiency, but they did not appear to be following any organized schedule. Instead, they seemed to naturally coordinate their activities through some invisible communication system. "Welcome to Earth," said a tall human woman who approached their ship. Her appearance was unremarkable by galactic standards, but she moved with a confidence that suggested deep understanding of the universe around her. "I am Ye Jin from the Committee for Galactic Affairs. We are honored to meet representatives of the Altarian Coalition." Taehyun and his crew disembarked from their ship, feeling slightly disoriented by the perfect gravity and atmospheric conditions. Everything about the facility was designed to be comfortable for visitors from other worlds, but the technology that accomplished this was completely invisible. "Dr. Ye Jin, we have come seeking to understand what makes human space unique," Taehyun said, falling back on diplomatic protocols. "We have encountered phenomena that challenge our understanding of physics and technology." Ye Jin smiled warmly. "Understanding is what we value most. The committee is eager to share what we have learned, though the concepts may require some adjustment in perspective." She led them through corridors that seemed to extend and contract based on their needs, always providing the perfect amount of space for comfortable travel. The walls were covered with what looked like living murals that shifted and changed as they watched, telling stories of human history and achievement through moving images. "Your technology appears to be based on completely different principles than what the rest of the galaxy uses," Sojin observed. "That is correct. Most galactic civilizations developed technology based on opposition and control. You take energy from one place and force it to work somewhere else. You impose your will on matter and make it behave according to your desires. Is that not how technology works?" Yejin paused at a window that looked out over the Earth's surface. Cities were visible below, but they looked like gardens that had grown into complex patterns rather than structures built by intelligent design. Technology can work that way, but it does not have to. What if instead of forcing the universe to obey you, you learn to cooperate with it? The question hung in the air as they continued their journey to meet the committee. Taehyun was beginning to understand that they were about to encounter ideas that would challenge everything his civilization believed about progress, development, and the nature of existence itself. "Dr. Yejin, what will happen to us after we learn these things? Will we be able to return to our normal lives?" She turned to look at him with eyes that seemed infinitely deep and patient. "That will be your choice to make. But once you understand how much larger and more wonderful the universe really is, most people find it difficult to go back to the smaller version they knew before." The Committee for Galactic Affairs met in a chamber that seemed to exist in several dimensions at once. The walls curved in ways that hurt to look at directly, and the ceiling opened onto what appeared to be the depths of space itself, complete, with slowly rotating galaxies and distant nebulae. Tae-hyun and his crew sat in chairs that adjusted themselves perfectly to each person's physiology, more comfortable than anything they had ever experienced. Min-ho, the committee chairman, was a soft-spoken man whose presence seemed to fill the room despite his unremarkable appearance. When he spoke, his words carried the weight of absolute certainty, as if he understood truths that others could barely imagine. Beside him sat Dong-woo, a philosopher whose eyes held the distant look of someone who had stared into the fundamental nature of reality and found it beautiful. "We understand that you have many questions," Min-ho began, his voice gentle but impossibly clear. "The phenomena you have encountered in our space challenge the basic assumptions that most galactic civilizations make about the universe." Tae-hyun leaned forward, his diplomatic training struggling with the magnitude of what he was experiencing. "Our technology fails in human space. We have found thousands of ships unable to leave your territory, and your people seem to possess capabilities that violate known physical laws. We need to understand what is happening here." Ye-jin, who had guided them to this meeting, took her place at the table. "The explanation requires understanding the difference between two approaches to existence. Every other species in the galaxy evolved to survive by conquering their environment, by imposing their will on the natural world around them. That is how intelligence develops," So-jin protested. "Species learn to use tools, to manipulate their surroundings, to build technology that gives them control over natural forces." "That is one path," Dong-woo agreed. "But it is not the only path. Humans evolved differently. We learned to survive by adapting to our environment, by becoming part of the natural systems around us instead of trying to dominate them." Jaemin shook his head, his engineering background making it difficult to accept such abstract concepts. "Adaptation has limits. You cannot adapt to the vacuum of space or the radiation around a star. You need technology to survive in hostile environments." Min-ho smiled patiently. "You are thinking of adaptation in terms of biological change, but consciousness itself can adapt. When humans reached space, we did not try to force the universe to accommodate our needs. Instead, we learned to understand the universe so completely that our consciousness became compatible with its fundamental nature." The explanation was too philosophical for Jaemin to grasp easily, but Bora was beginning to see the implications. "You are saying that humans have evolved beyond the need for traditional technology?" "Not beyond the need, but beyond the limitations," Ye-jin clarified. "Your ships fail in our space because they are designed to work against natural forces. They fight gravity. They resist electromagnetic fields. They impose artificial order on quantum chaos. In human space, the universe responds to a different kind of relationship. Our technology works with natural forces instead of against them," Min-ho continued. "Our ships do not push through space. They flow with the currents of space-time. Our computers do not process information. They participate in the information flows that connect all matter and energy in the universe." Han-wol had been silent during most of the discussion, but now he spoke up. "I have been flying ships for 30 years, and I have never encountered space-time currents or information flows. These things do not exist in normal space." "They exist everywhere," Dong-woo replied. "But most species are not aware of them because their technology and consciousness are not designed to perceive subtle phenomena. You are like beings who have spent their entire lives shouting and have forgotten how to hear whispers." The conversation was interrupted when another committee member entered the chamber. This was Dong-min, a physicist whose understanding of the universe had apparently transcended normal human limitations. When he moved, reality seemed to bend slightly around him, creating visual distortions that made it difficult to look at him directly. "I apologize for my lateness," Dong-min said, settling into a chair that formed itself from the floor as he approached. "I was helping to guide a stellar nursery through its formation cycle. The young stars needed some assistance finding stable orbital patterns." Tae-hyun stared at him in shock. "Did you just say you were helping stars to form?" Stars are living beings in their own way, Dong Min replied matter-of-factly. They have needs and desires. They can be lonely or frightened. They sometimes require guidance during important life transitions. Most species never realize this because they see stars as merely nuclear furnaces, but consciousness exists at every level of reality. The casual way he discussed manipulating stellar formation was beyond anything that Taehyun's civilization had ever imagined possible. The most advanced galactic technologies could barely influence planetary weather patterns, yet humans spoke of guiding star formation as if it were a routine activity. This is why the galactic maps end at your borders, Bora realized. Other civilizations fear you not because you are conquerors, but because you represent a completely different kind of existence. Fear is not accurate, Minho said thoughtfully. It is more like recognition of incompatibility. When species encounter us, they realize that their entire approach to existence is limited and crude. Their technology becomes unreliable because it was never designed to work in harmony with the universe. The thousands of ships in the graveyard, Taehyun said, they are not prisoners, they are students. They came to study us, just as you did, Yejin confirmed. But once they understood what we had achieved, they realized they could not return to their old lives. How do you go back to fighting the universe after you have learned to dance with it? Sojin was taking notes frantically, trying to record concepts that challenged everything she knew about science and technology. What about the crew members who choose to stay? Do they become human? Consciousness is not limited by biology, Dongwoo explained. Any species can learn to perceive and interact with the universe the way we do. It requires letting go of the need to control and dominate, but the rewards are infinite. Jamin was struggling with the implications of everything he was hearing. If what you say is true, then every piece of technology in the galaxy is obsolete. Every civilization is primitive, compared to what you have achieved. Not primitive, Minho corrected gently. Different. Your civilizations chose the path of opposition and control, which has its own value and beauty. But there are other paths available, other ways of existing that most species have never considered. Taehyun looked around the impossible chamber, at the humans who casually discussed guiding star formation and dancing with the universe, at his crew members who were trying to process ideas that redefine the nature of existence itself. What happens now? What happens to us after we return to our people with this knowledge? That is your choice, Yejin said. You can return to the galaxy and try to explain what you have learned, though most civilizations are not ready to hear these truths. Or you can stay and learn to perceive the universe as we do. And if we stay, then you become part of something larger than any single species or civilization. You become part of the universe's own consciousness, participating in the eternal dance of matter and energy and information that connects all existence. The offer was tempting beyond words, but Taehyun felt the weight of his responsibilities to his own people. Dr. Minho, why do you allow other species to maintain their limited existence? Why not share this knowledge with the entire galaxy? Minho's smile was infinitely patient and sad. We do share it with anyone who is willing to listen. But most civilizations are not ready to abandon their need for control and domination. They prefer the illusion of power over the reality of harmony. The galaxy will change eventually, Dongwoo added. As more species encounter us, as more individuals choose to stay and learn, the knowledge spreads. But transformation cannot be forced, it must be chosen freely. Taehyun stood and walked to the window that looked out over Earth's surface. The planet below was beautiful beyond description. A world where technology and nature existed in perfect harmony, where consciousness and matter danced together in patterns too complex and wonderful for words. I need time to decide, he said, finally. Of course, Minho replied. Time moves differently here than in the rest of the galaxy. You can take as long as you need to make your choice. As Taehyun stared out at the infinite stars, he realized that the galactic map ended at human space not because of barriers or boundaries, but because beyond this point lay transformation itself. The universe was vast and wonderful, filled with possibilities that most civilizations had never dreamed of exploring. The question now was whether he and his crew were ready to dance with infinity, or whether they would choose to return to the smaller, safer universe they had always known. Either way, nothing would ever be the same again. The mystery that had brought them here was solved, but in its place was a choice that would define the rest of their existence. In the distance, stars sang their ancient songs, and the universe waited patiently for their answer.